Just like spelled, just like it. I had a blast. I was sitting next to read our kids second. Polar Express.
Get rid of your first name. So I can read.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's got 6 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. In a pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right on. Next, we've got roll call, and we have a full house. Everybody is here. Additions or modifications to the agenda? Anybody from the board got additions to the agenda? Entertain a motion to accept it as presented.
Make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Second that.
Got a motion and a second. Marcia and Lynette. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Righto. All right, next up, we need to elect board officers. So for our tradition, I will turn the meeting over to Superintendent Oski. He can guide us
Okay,
through it.
so we will start with the election of the chair, and then once the chair is elected, then we will turn the meeting back over to them. So with that being said, the floor is open for nominations for chairman of the board for the 25 school year.
I'll nominate Travis Pearson, who I think is doing a good job as the chair, to remain in that position.
Whereas I feel like Travis is doing a great job, I'd like to nominate Lynette.
I decline that nomination. Thank you, Casey.
All right, so with that, we have one nomination on the table. So all in favor of Travis Pearson being the chair for the 2025 school year, please vote by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, Travis, I turn it back over to you.
Okay, next up, we need our vice chair. I would accept nominations for vice chair.
I would nominate Lynette as vice chair. As you've been here, you really get into it, you go to everything, and Lynette, I think you're deserving of it.
Anyone else have a nomination? Hearing none. All in favor of approving that for vice chair, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Righto. Let's see, can't remember if I'm secretary or treasurer next.
Clerk.
Clerk. Nominations for clerk. The other two have signified they're willing to continue serving, if I've understood correctly.
With that being said, Travis, can I make a motion to just pass the slate as is for the clerk and treasurer? Me, Marcia Goddard, will be the clerk, and Casey Rodriguez would stay on as treasurer.
Absolutely. Have any other nominations or discussions come yet? Okay, all in favor of approving the rest of the slate, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign? Okay, we've got our officers. Thank you, everybody.
Well, congratulations, everybody.
Yeah.
Super excited to move into the next year with the board and the officers in position, so.
Lots of exciting opportunities ahead. Okay, next up on the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Second it.
Got a motion and a second. Nat and Marcia to approve consent agenda as presented. Any comment or discussion from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I do have maybe a comment or a question. So when we approved the indoor track, at that time we said we wouldn't hire any more coaches, but yet I see we have one on there. And if it's because there are more kids that are involved in that, I'm okay with that, but I was wanting an explanation.
Absolutely. So
for that,
I'll
please.
answer to that question. So last year we had several conversations around, they had 60+ kids and do the liability piece. So one of the things we agreed to is add an assistant position, but it had to come out of the activity bus budget without adding more cost to the budget within that piece. So that's where this lies.
So did it add more cost to that?
We stayed within the activity budget. We did not add to the activity budget for staff.
So if I could ask, how many coaches and assistant coaches will we have per kids? Because we talked about trying to limit it to 15 coaches.
So what we did is we just have 2 stipends and are actually gonna divide it up among, I think, 4 different people, so we're not, so they took the pot of money and are dividing it up according to the number of volunteers, so.
Okay.
Connie had something?
Just that there's 3 people, we're dividing it between 3 people.
Okay. So I'm going to ask the question on the para position. It's a new position. Did we have someone? It's not replacing anyone, do we? Are we just adding another position in special ed and
So I'm gonna let Craig and Gibb answer to that question, the high needs para at the high school.
Yeah, I will. We had a, remember, late resignation in August. Very last minute, we went without, and we had the position posted, and this is kind of where we've settled on how do we staff. And this is kind of the best plan forward right now. So,
Okay, so
it really is not it's a new para position, but we've shifted some things around district-wide to fill the needs of the district. So,
thank you, Craig.
Other questions, comments, discussion from the board on the consent agenda?
So I will make my comment about the retirement piece when they're up later.
Okay.
Just to recognize that piece, but.
So, Mr. Chairman, one other thing. So we have a rec board appointment. We had a person interested in it, gave us a letter, and my fault for not catching it. Should that have been an action item?
Well, because we only had the one and we must appoint somebody,
So we just got to roll it.
we decided we could put it in consent because there was the one choice. So there wasn't much to discuss, honestly.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, it would just been maybe nice to know that Jack had everyone's support.
Yes.
Because he would certainly have mine.
Yeah,
Done a great job.
I believe
And thank you, Jack. I know he's not here, but
Yeah, for
thank you for applying.
keeping track of that for so many years. Okay.
So the other part, Travis, as the chairman of the board, we did have an early ad for, a late ad for the early graduation request. We could throw that into consent.
Yep.
But I do believe the young man is here, correct? So part of the tradition is, if they would like to present, they can. So we can do that at this point in time, but not obligated. So we'll leave that up to you guys.
You want to stand up and talk? Okay. Mrs. Hall and I are here to support Brad. Brad Morris is our early graduate, and he had kind of a last minute change of plans, which he'll tell you about. But we're very proud of him and glad that he got into this meeting for an approval.
So the reason for the last minute changes is because I'm going into the Army National Guard, and this weekend I go off to MEPS for all that. And hopefully if that all goes well, I go into that, go into basic for 25 Bravo, information technology, IT support for the military, and then I plan on going off to college.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Bradford, thanks for continuing your education, getting through the high school and moving on. I appreciate that.
That was simple. Good job.
Yes, perfect. Okay, any other discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Righto. On to action items, if I don't select everything and confuse myself. Okay, district annual audit. We had a real good presentation on this at the work session. Final audit report.
Mr. Chair,
Please.
I make a motion that the board will accept the district fiscal year 24 audit.
You?
Second.
Motion and a second. Nat and Casey, I believe. Okay. Discussion on the audit.
So, Mr. Chair, I would have a question, and I'm apologize for not being able to be here Wednesday, but, and hopefully you can answer, Connie. So on page 33, the way I read it is we had a shortfall in our budget of $1.775 million. And I just bring that up that when we do the budget this upcoming year, we probably, did I not read that right? You don't think?
The 1.7 million is what we downloaded from ESSER for 2021's salaries, and I transferred it to the general fund. So that's money that, and then we did the budget, we had that ESSER supplemental, and we spent some of it last year, but we had 1.3 million of this year's budget for that supplemental ESSER. So that's what the 1.7 million is.
So it's because of the ESSER funds, is what you're saying, or lack of now?
It's not the lack of, we actually moved money into $1.7 million into the general fund.
Through ESSER, okay.
That's what we also gave the bonus with, or the incentive bonus, yes.
So Connie, I know we talked about it in the office, but I don't know how many other people saw it. So if you'll explain, we had an excess tax collection of over $4 million, and that really caught my eye. So if you could explain that, I would appreciate that.
So, so during that, what that does in that, the area that he's talking about is that we, remember that 30% carryover that we can't go over? So what they try to do is they try to assign as much cash as possible so that our fund balance is not over that $30 million. And so, I mean, the 30%. And so what they do is they use what we had to pay back to, not pay back, I don't want to misinterpret that. I estimated how much taxes that we would receive and how much taxes we actually received. So the difference was $4 million. So that went into local revenue. So, but we still have a $7 million entitlement payment coming. So that's what it is. It's just assigning and keeping that from being added to our fund, unassigned fund balance.
So Connie, real quick, and be the last question, I promise, is the depreciation list. If you would just, you explained it to me because in a previous meeting, maybe I had heard that wrong. So if you would explain the depreciation list that the auditors used to come up with the 51.
So every piece of equipment, all the land, everything is depreciated. Land's not depreciated, but anyway, everything is depreciated and they calculate that number. What we were talking about in another meeting is that, remember, the inventory guys came through and they're going to give us a list of all the equipment, and we're going to create a 5 to 10 year replacement cycle of all that equipment. And Dave thought I was talking about a depreciation list. We do have an asset list, depreciation list that depreciates it, and it's, remember, that's just an accounting term. So when it gets to zero, it doesn't have any value on the books, and we don't have to show it back. We just write it off. So it's just an accounting type of thing that keeps an asset list. And they depreciate the equipment. So the cars, the tractors, the everything.
Thank you, Connie.
Other questions or discussion on the audit this year?
It was a good one.
It was a good one. You got noted for doing things well. Okay, no additional discussion. All in favor of accepting the audit as presented signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right. Policy revision, second reading. I entertain a motion. What's the pleasure, board? Do you want to approve the section if one at a time?
I'll make a motion to approve policy FEG, construction contract bidding awards.
Okay. Can I get a second? Second. Got a motion and a second. Dave Benito. All right, FEG. Questions or discussion on this one?
So my comment, Travis, is the board approves these construction contracts. And then if Mr. Oski or the superintendent would like to change those, then they can change them to a specified dollar amount or percentage, okay? And I'm wondering if in this policy, we need to specify that as, for me, it's too open-ended.
Okay.
Because if you, and I think it's all at the end of the first paragraph, does that mean that you can make changes in the amount of 100,000, or does it mean you could make a change in the amount of 1,000?
Yeah, or are we supposed to spell it out per contract?
Correct. So, like for me, it's a little open-ended. I would like to see it just be a little tighter by putting some kind of numbers or percentages in there. And Charles, is that something that is okay with you? And it's by no means going against me, believe me.
So that's totally up to you as a board. What we have in front of you is what the School Boards Association recommended, just to have a policy to follow. So if you want to beef it up and add percentages to it, I'm going to say that's not within my realm to tell you what those percentages are, because I don't want to pigeonhole you as a board of trustees. But we don't have to approve that here tonight. We can take it back and have a conversation and bring it back to you for the next readings.
And even having said that, so percentages on a $100,000 is a whole lot different on 10 million. So that's sometimes why percentages don't work. So
yeah,
anyhow,
and
it is first reading on these, correct?
So I guess
this is second. I was just checking.
For me, I don't like the open-endedness.
So I mean, as a board, you can give me clear direction to go back to the committee and determine what kind of wording you would like, or we can make sure we can get those answers to you guys.
So, as I'm reading this, we're supposed to determine it per contract. If we're building a new school, that's one percentage. If we're paving a parking lot, that should be something significantly different. But I think we're supposed to determine it by the award, the way it's written.
Yeah, correct. So, have we ever done that?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't think we've ever sat down and said how much.
So you're a construction guy.
Yeah.
Do we need to make a change?
This is standard language for any municipal bidding. They put a certain amount of overage that they expect. We typically hold 15% higher than the bid and then 10% retainage. So it's not unheard of, but.
So in your opinion, is it written okay?
Yeah, it's fine the way it is. We can go through and if we have something big come through and don't want to commit to 1% of a $30 million project, all we have to do as a board.
And like I say, because you're a construction guy, I'll go along with what you're telling me is customary in this.
Yeah, I think we retain control for big versus little here.
Okay.
So I believe it's okay.
Okay.
Casey, you were there for this one. You got thoughts or inputs on this?
The way that I took it was that it's a little bit more customizable per contract. So I feel like if we start putting certain percentages in, we can tie ourselves to maybe something that isn't betterment of. This gives us a little more flexibility to be. That's the way I took it.
Yeah.
So.
Other thoughts or ideas?
So Travis, I just want to go back. So when we're talking about bids of new schools, or we're talking about construction projects, this is one policy. The State Facilities Commission has rules too. So this is just coming back to you as a board, have something. Majority of this is going to be controlled by the state in the first place. They're going to have a bidding process. They're going to have a set of expectations. They're going to have approvals as they go through this. So there's multiple entities that will be looking at any major construction project. And actually, by the time it gets to us, we'll have to have the approval by the state before we bring it to you. So within those parameters, they will have to have approved whatever bids come to you as a district board of trustees for approval. So what I'm trying to say is this is one of many just checkpoints, but the reality is by the time it gets to you, it's crossed many checkpoints to come to you for final approval. Yep.
Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of approving, what did it say? FEG, thank you bifocals. FEG, as presented, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, we got FEGB next.
I'll make a motion to approve policy FEGB as written.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, Marcia and Daniel. Discussion on this one.
So, Mr. Chair, when I look at this, and I'm gonna find where I'm at, so it talks about that the security will pay for the same in the amount not exceeding the sum specified together with interest as provided by law. And there's at the last paragraph, it talks about as provided by law. So there again, you're a construction guy, as provided by law. Why wouldn't you just state the interest rate? Anywhere else you do business, they state the interest rate. And is it, you don't want to state the interest rate because this is 2024 and this policy is for the next 10 years and the interest rate may vary?
Compounded by if the duration of the build is longer than a year, you can have several changes in there, and they wish to keep that open until you can lock in the highest one. So price of materials and everything can modify over the course of the build. Then part of that stipulation is to cover that change if you have to bring in a new contractor to finish it.
So there again, I'll ask you, because you're a construction guy, you're okay with the way it's written?
This is
with
the rules.
not specifying the amount?
Yep, it's real standard language, and everybody uses it to protect the entity awarding the contract so that that number can be set to protect us, so we get the highest number we can get.
So if I asked you the question, what interest rate is provided by law presently?
I would have to dig that one up.
Is there such a thing?
Yeah, and it's
There is.
the same thing that the federal banks are paying. Boy, I haven't pulled up how you solve that one in a while, but there is a number.
Okay.
I have to look it up. I can't remember.
I didn't know that there was a
Yeah, there is.
law
It's typically
what
agreed.
you could charge, but okay.
Boy,
Thank you for answering that,
I need
Travis.
respect. Other discussion on holding bonds. Hearing none, all in favor of approving FEGB as presented, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Next up is FG. This is the one we sent back and asked for a little modification of some verbiage. Entertainment.
I'll make a motion to approve file FG, acceptance of new facilities.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Lynette and Marcia. Discussion.
Mr. Chair, I hate to be the one to always ask
No,
questions.
it's all good. It's
Okay.
all good.
So before they crossed out the Board of Trustees and they put in the board chair, and you do a great job and you're a construction guy and that's great. But in the future, if we have someone who isn't a construction guy like you, and we might have a construction person on the board, why would you want the board to do it? And as we just went through what the duties of the chair, vice chair, and everybody else are, I think the board should have been left in there when you oversee a new facility. But why would the entire board not want to view that facility?
And that's a fair question. We asked them to take that out. The addition of the with superintendent or designees was the opportunity for the board to appoint, say, a 4-person team to go look at this, because 4 sets eyes are always going to be better than 1. So we included the designee to give the board an opportunity to say, are we all going to go hit this together? Can we make that happen? Or do we want to split this out and make it an assignment for a team of 4 to go and inspect and report back? That's why we changed it that way. The thought at the time was, what are the chances of getting all 9 of us together on any given day to go do a march through and an inspection?
Well, and it wouldn't have to be, but the way it was written before, the board shall inspect, so it doesn't say that the entire board has to inspect, it just said that, to me, I just read it as the board's invited to inspect, but with the designee, or designee, that kind of means 1 person, but.
Yeah, I read the entire board needed to be on site to finish this, and that meant all of us making another meeting and a special meeting to inspect, so that's where the
Because in
discussion
the
is.
past, and gosh, Mr. Anderson's been here long enough to know that, but I think the entire board went when we built the facilities.
We laughed at that actually at the policy committee and said, we're a bunch of politicians. You don't think we're gonna be there to cut ribbons and wave at cameras? So I thought we'd all be there anyway. Thoughts, board, we can go back to the original, send this back for additional consideration.
I think the original comment that came out of the policy committee was they read it as the board of trustees was the entire board, which is what you agreed to, but we also realized that you as a board at any point in time are gonna come and we'll do the walkthrough and we're gonna do everything of that nature. I also made it, you guys you're not certified to check everything off, but you're gonna go through and ask questions because the state's gonna have people that are going to do the final inspection and check off our certified along with our facilities guy who's over here. So when it gets to that point, you as a board, if we're building new facilities, we'll be walking through, looking and asking questions. I think the original comment when we were in that policy meeting was the board of trustees basically said the entire board would be there to certify. So you guys can assign whatever you want, but what we added the wording is the board chair will collaboratively basically work with the superintendent or any designees to make sure that anything that's coming with the new building is addressed. Does not limit you you can go walk through as a board in the building anytime you want. We can do it every week if you want. But that would be up to you as a board of trustees.
Well, Mr. Chair, it still seems vague to me.
Yes, either.
Like, either the yellow, the highlighted needs to be tweaked a little bit, or we need to bring back the crossed out and put it in there so that it's not causing questions. Is it all the board? Is it some of the board? Is it designee, parentheses S?
S, yeah. I agree, we can work with this one some more.
I guess I'm with Charles on this one. I feel like we're all gonna be there anyways. There's no policy stating we can't be there. So if we all say we're all going, then we can all go, and if someone can't make it, then they can't make it. But it doesn't tie us to
Just the two people.
or just the two. Yeah, I don't know. I'm okay with it.
Okay, I'll keep it.
I'm sort of on this thing, I don't know that we specified well. I can almost read it in the yellow as the superintendent or his designee. So now we have one board person and.
Well, maybe it's big enough that we can just read it how we want.
Yeah, that we can interpret it any way we like. Always touch that. Yeah.
So you can vote it down, we'll go back to committee and we'll change it and bring it back, so.
Yeah, I think that's the
it's your
best answer.
choice.
Okay, with that in mind, all in favor of approving policy, FG, signify by saying aye. All opposed, same sign? Aye. Okay, FG voted down, we'll send it back to committee.
So with that, Mr. Chairman, I would ask for details of what you want added so we don't go back through the policy committee and come back again. So we probably should be specific on what we would like added or subtracted for the policy committee to review.
I think we need to, if I understood correctly, we need to say the board chairman and either an assigned group of board members or the total board, but I don't think we want to lock ourselves.
Marsh's words, who can make it. Yeah. Because even when we have a meeting, it's a meeting of the board, but we don't all have to be here. We're not all here. As long as there's a quorum, we have a board meeting. And probably the same applies here.
So do you feel that we should have a quorum present, or do you want to limit it to 4?
Make sure the board is invited. Somehow put the wording in there that the entire board is invited to this inspection.
Okay.
So do you say board chairman and or board trustees in collaboration with the superintendent?
That's what I
Great
think.
wording. Yeah, great. Casey, yeah, sounds great.
That would be my only, to add something there.
Yeah, but that doesn't lock us into a hard number of trustees.
Right.
We can assign that, so that's good. Any other questions? All right. Back to committee with that one. All right, next up. Got policy JF, policy JF.
And I'll make a motion to approve policy JF, student admissions.
Got a motion and a second. Putting it backwards. Dave and Marcia. Discussion on this one.
Mr. Chair.
Please.
I was the one that questioned this policy the last time. And Dr. Miller, so I questioned about the immunization requirements. And it says, they changed it when they submit a waiver authorized by the state or county health officer, which includes written evidence of religious objection or medical contraindication to the administration of any vaccine. Dr. Miller sent me the form that is typically used, and it's from the Wyoming Department of Health, the religious waiver request. I still, I understand that from what I'm understanding, you can wait, or you can request for religious reasons or only by a doctor. Is that correct?
That's how I took it.
Is that what everybody's seeing? In my mind, that is still not clear. I'm not sure exactly.
So there's 3 exemptions that I see, Lynette, by the state, by the county health officer, or by a religious exemption.
Right. I guess we'll just leave it to the parents if they want to search for an exemption for another reason. I just don't want us to be tied in if there's a parent that comes across that doesn't vaccinate and doesn't want to use the religious, or doesn't have a physician, that it's just per their choice that they choose not to vaccinate. I don't feel like that this necessarily, I feel like it kind of ties parents to that. They have to.
Those exemptions listed.
Yeah, with those listed, so, I just question it again.
Yep.
Do you feel like if parents bring kids that are not vaccinated, that it is a health hazard to the students of the students?
I just, probably my personal preferences would be parental rights, for however they choose, whatever they choose. I don't necessarily think that, I feel like we would be covered as far as anything, but I'm struggling just because I don't want to force anybody that, like, your kid can't go to school if somebody doesn't have a religion, or they don't want to go through that portal, or they don't have a doctor and I'm just like looking into the future of vaccinations that are coming around the bend. And it concerns me. I'm really concerned about it. So, sometimes I feel I just don't want parents' rights. If something comes forth into state law, I don't want parents forced to feel like that they have to have their kids vaccinated. And there's, just in the last 10 years, there's vaccinations for all kinds of things, from even like when we were little, that weren't there. And so I'm just looking out for rights of parents.
Like the state law, where things are kind of tight as far as
Yeah.
funding.
And I understand that we.
Requirement, we really can't.
You could, but you could lose your funding.
Right, exactly
Yeah.
right, yes.
And that is honestly a concern of mine. And so I guess if the battle comes, then a parent would have an option to do other things.
So can I,
Please, Charles, go.
can I help?
Dip in, yeah, help me understand this, please.
So the reality is, I get what you're saying, but this does not keep them from submitting some type of waiver with a state official or a local official to talk about why they don't want or to do it. So it is giving parents an avenue to at least seek an understanding of what that is. So if we were not allowing them to have the opportunity, it would be different, but there are multiple avenues. I think Dave said that there are 3 different avenues of pursuing this if you don't want that piece. So even if you didn't get it from the state, it does say the county health officer could do something of that nature.
Okay.
So I think there are
So
3
we
different
wouldn't
avenues.
necessarily require that Wyoming health, the waiver that I
A
was.
student will be exempt from immunization requirements only when they submit a waiver authorized by, so they're gonna have a process to defend or ask why they want the waiver.
Right.
And then that, as us as a school district, protects us too, because there are state rules behind it, so that liability is giving them the option. And at some point in time, there might have to be a decision if they don't like one of those options, but I don't disagree with you, rules are gonna change over time because there are different things that are coming, but I would say more than likely in the state of Wyoming, if some of those policies are gonna change, we're gonna see that in legislation.
Additional comment or discussion on this one? Hearing none, all in favor of approving JF as presented, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. And finally, policy GCBD.
I'll make a motion to approve policy GCBD, employee fringe benefits.
Motion and a second. Dave and Marcia, discussion board.
Was this reviewed by the Wyoming School Board Association, Charles, or our policy committee?
So this is gonna be reviewed by the business office first, so Connie.
Sure.
With that discussion, these are a lot of things that they brought to the table, because we needed to clean up, our policy because we hadn't been following policy. So this really started with them through to you guys that we created a policy on the current things that we are doing, so yes.
Does it align with the Wyoming School Board?
They don't have this.
They don't have a policy, okay, so each individual district has their own, thank you.
So this allows us not to pay those insurance over the summer.
Summer months.
But correct me if I'm wrong, but we also, HR had conversations in this, legal counsel had conversations in this, and also what's working, so. It's been reviewed very extensively.
Great.
Yeah, we did get to him. Okay. All right, discussion on this one. Other questions, thoughts? Hearing none, all in favor of approving GCBD as presented, signify by saying aye. Aye. Same, opposed, same sign. All right, next up, policy revisions, first reading. All right, policy file DCB. This is how we're going to capitalize investments.
Make a motion to approve policy as presented.
Got a motion and a second, Marcia and Casey. All right, board, discussion on.
Somebody has to explain this one to me, because I do not understand it.
Woo.
So we're gonna let Connie.
Yes, please, Connie, we need you.
I scratched my head, scratched my head, and I'm like, what does this mean?
Website hard to translate.
First one, if we go back to the actual policy, first of all, we're already doing that. The auditors ask us to put that in policy. So that's
What
what
is policy?
the capitalization threshold. This is how it gets on that asset list, the depreciation asset list.
This is what we're talking about.
This is how we do that. And it was not in policy. And so they would like to see it in policy. We were just using best practices out of the Wyoming accounting manual that they give us every year. So this is straight out of that. And so the first part of the capitalization threshold, so it tells us land, you capitalize it only, and land improvements, you would capitalize anything over 50,000, buildings 100,000, buildings and improvements 100,000. Construction in progress, we capitalize that as we go. And then machinery equipment is, it has to be at least $5,000 per item. We would capitalize that. Vehicles the same, and some infrastructure. And if you go back to the other one that we had, that gives you all the definitions of what each of those mean. So it gives you the definition of land, site improvements, building improvements, and just go on. So we're going to tie that and link that in the policy so the definitions will be there. So the very first one is really what we already do, but he just wanted it in policy. So they asked us to do that. And so the capitalization lease threshold is a new one, that's GASB 87. And so the district will capitalize any lease that has a present value of $50,000. So pretty much the only thing that we really lease are buses. And so I think we lease the machine that does the lines.
Oh, the robot guy, yeah.
The robot guy. And so those are the really things. So we put that threshold at $50,000 that we would capitalize that lease. And then the capitalization of SBITA, and I have to read it, subscription-based information technology arrangement. And that's at GASB 96. That was new last year and it's new this year. Our threshold is $100,000. And everything that we buy is usually 1-year contracts. And so those don't even qualify for this. And so this is for any really big software subscriptions that we would do. And they were very fine with $100,000 as a threshold. So this is really just the union policy. We have to follow that. And they want something to show that, okay, here's your policy. Are you following or not? And at this point, there was no policy that really guided us on that. So that's why we brought it to you as a recommendation of the auditors.
So to shorten that up, Connie, you're saying that you can't depreciate, you don't want to depreciate a building and put it on the depreciation list unless it's over 100,000. Is that kind of what I'm hearing from you?
Yes, yes. So every building that we have is on the asset list. So, but $100,000 for a building is.
Yeah, and I understand. I just wanted to make sure that I understood it correctly, and the way I understand it is, it will not appear on the depreciation list unless it has a value of over what you've listed.
We'll still insure it, we'll still own it, it's that depreciation piece that the only time you'll see it is in the audit. We appreciate it.
Thanks for the explanation.
Help me with for the last three, machinery and equipment, vehicles are both at 5,000 and infrastructure's at 3. Yeah. So the bottom one, that's a good infrastructure project, but the machinery and vehicles one.
So anything over, $5,000, if we bought, let's say we bought this TV and it was $5,000, we would put that on, but anything less than that, we don't depreciate. So
my concern is that threshold is too low. Is that a statutory threshold?
No, that is pretty generally accepted GAPC practices across the board.
Yeah. I would like to see that 15,000 or something to keep little stuff. A lawnmower is a small item, but it can break 5,000 pretty easy.
Yeah, if it comes out with that recommendation, we'll come.
We'll modify?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
this is
the
what
more
the
you can
auditors are
depreciate out, the better off you are, Travis. And I know we don't pay income tax, but the more you depreciate, the better off you are. So then I guess the next follow-up question to that is what Travis referred to, a lawnmower for $4,000. It will still be on the asset list, correct?
It's not on it's still.
But isn't that what you're trying to do, is get a list of the assets?
Yes, and so it's just not on our capital.
Depreciation list. Yep. Thanks.
Still insured.
Other thoughts or discussion on this one, gang? All right, hearing none. All in favor of approving DCB on first reading as presented, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right. Next up, board meeting schedule.
Make a motion to approve the 2025 board meeting schedule as presented.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Marcia and Lynette. Discussion on this one. Everybody happy with the board meeting schedule? Hearing none. All in favor of approving the 2025 board meeting schedule as presented, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Committee time. Okay. OC's committee.
Lynette, have you ever thought about maybe taking Jan's spot there? I think you would be good on that committee.
So this is the one that Charles and I, we went down to the meeting that they held in Casper at the annual training.
Okay.
And we asked if we could have Mr. Anderson be our representative, so he could go meet all the people and know all the faces and names that we're interacting with on this one. They said it was fine so long as we had a board member willing to serve as an alternate or the second in case he can't attend. Benito said that he would volunteer for that.
Oh, okay.
So, as a thought, you okay with this wild-eyed scheme we came up with?
Carl said I was.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks, Greg.
Charles.
So, if that suits everybody, that would be, Charles, are there more things that need said on that one? Did I cover it?
No, absolutely. I mean, outside the box thinking, we went to the meeting, they were okay with it. I think that's a great opportunity for us as a district, and actually it might kind of set a new trend for other districts too, to have their special ed directors a part of that board, because they're the ones that are really involved in it, so.
Make those ties a little closer.
And then it doesn't mean, I mean, Benito can still attend virtually. They're all virtual meetings, so they both can attend. There's just one vote. That's the direction we'll go, so, yeah. We kind of challenged them and they agreed to it, so, yeah.
I actually thought Jan went to a lot of the meetings.
Oh, she did.
Yeah, so, but
You can go physically though. if you want.
Physically, but yeah, she might have drove over, but I know a lot of times it's virtual. Because the chairman lives in Glen Rock, so I mean, a lot of them, according to what we were there that morning, she said 90% of the people are virtual.
Yeah, we had 3 call-ins even though we were at the WSBA convention that were virtually on, so I believe it's an alternate. Okay, is everybody good there? All right. Oh, geez.
I'm willing to stay on there. Jan was also in the latter part, had went to 2 or 3 meetings, and so if anybody else would like to be on there also, that'd be great.
Mackenzie, you expressed an interest in this one. You're still good here? All right. Put that Mackenzie on there too. Everybody's agreed?
Yep.
Recreation Board. Marcia has volunteered to carry on with this one, and I think it's a good idea. Salary and benefits. Lost Miss Adu. Casey, I had one more. Who was it?
You had Lynette on there. So,
Okay, Casey and Lynette. We had 3.
yeah, so, yeah.
Daniel, did you want to get in on this one? Was this one that you?
I think that, yeah, might have been.
Okay. So we would switch that to Lynette, Casey, and Daniel. Everybody's happy with that assignment.
And you're good with staying on there?
I was gonna let me out and have these guys be our 3.
Well, that's pretty slick.
Wasn't that nice and dodgy?
Yeah.
I liked it too.
Did you call Daniel and ask him to take
Yeah,
it?
once I finally let go of his arm, he resorted to trying to retract.
He unhooked his battery to my chair.
When it was cold out.
Yes, he said, I'm not plugging it until you say yes.
Yeah, tough negotiations. Okay, Joint Fuel Board Committee. Dave, we got you on this one? You
I'm happy to stay on.
stay on there? Good. The Buffalo High School Development Fund has always been the chairman, and that one's set, so we're good there.
That's a part of the bylaws.
Yes. District Advisory, got Lynette and Marcia there. Stabilization Initiative, we said we can zap, it's done. Policy Committee. Casey and I both agreed to stay on. Reed volunteered to fill in for Jan to make us our third.
That's great.
Yeah,
Good for you.
my favorite one.
We already
Anyway,
have some work cut out to review one of the policies.
straighten up the first one. So if everybody's good there, then cell phone protocol. I think we had 4 for this one.
So Travis, I have to ask a question when I saw that on there. So the state has a bill in front of them to, I guess, limit the use of cell phones in school. And so if the state passes a
Yeah, new
policy,
law.
a law, whatever you might want to have, Maryland, do we need it at the school?
So you gotta remember, there's a lot of rules, there's a lot of laws, there's a lot of potential laws, it's not passed yet. So this all started with this committee, we've done our survey. So I really think we're obligated to continue with our stakeholders, what we promised them we would do, with that understanding that if legislation does pass a law, that, you know, we're gonna have to tweak what we're doing anyway, so.
Yeah, law's gonna trump whatever kind of policy you have in it, so.
Isn't the rule we can be more strict, not less? I mean, yeah, I don't know how you get more strict than what was proposed. Yeah, that's what I thought too, so.
So I'm just gonna give you my professional opinion, that it's gonna come back to, they're going to mandate that schools create a cell phone policy. And so they're probably gonna, that's what they're gonna mandate, usually that's what they get to that point, so we'll be ahead of the game.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, please.
I'd like to be on this committee, please.
Okay, we've got Lynette,
I would as well.
Marcia,
I would like to.
Mackenzie's in. You guys, that enough? I'll let you 3 run with it. Okay, I'm out. All right, so now if everybody followed that entire discussion, is everybody happy with the committees as assigned presently? Okay. Oh.
I didn't feel left out, anybody.
Can we get a motion to approve this?
Yeah, I did my trick again.
Sorry, I'll make
Discussion
a
first, then
motion to approve these committees.
Got a motion and a second. Lynette and Casey, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Heidi, feel free to yell at me when I do that, please. Okay. Next up, principal reports. We have.
All right, Mr. Chair, we do have the spotlight.
Right
at
on.
North Elementary. So I'm gonna turn it over to.
Come on, Mr. Graves.
Mrs. Graves.
Chairman of the board, board members, and Mr. Oski, thank you for, I guess, allowing me to bring 2 new programs to be showcased for you tonight. Before we jump into that super fast, because I know we have littles that are needing to go home. But I just want to thank Mr. Oski, Ms. Peterson, Ms. Wright, and Ms. Ruby for their incredible, outstanding work. Well, Mr. Oski was he didn't.
All I did was ho-ho.
But anyway, pulling this program off, but also to my staff. I mean, and to Mr. McKenzie and his transportation people, it truly took a team. And the students' hard work, you wouldn't know for 2 months that they put all that time in and then had that enthusiasm. It was like the first time their excitement was contagious. So I just wanted to hit on that. Thanks once more time. And then over this past weekend, so it's not my board report, as soon as I get further details, I'll put it in. But we're super proud of 4 staff members. Mrs. Woodall, she's not here for that, so I promise I'd ignore her. Mrs. Woodall, Mrs. McClure, Ms. Kavitz, and Ms. Warren all achieved their recertification in the specific areas for their national board certification. So very, very pleased with that. It's a tremendous amount of work, and it really is about building themselves professionally. So yeah.
That was
Warren.
We typically always ask them to give up and give up a speech. Not gonna happen tonight.
She's just here to support our crew. So before my 2 teachers take over, I just super fast intro on what they're doing. I know Ms. Olson was hired to do our early childhood liaison work for the district last year, but as we visited, she brought bags to you to show you how she was spreading literacy throughout the community. But she and I both had the opportunity when we worked especially in Hot Springs County in Demopolis to observe a very strong early childhood program that actually had facilities on the school grounds. And they were able to, that teacher was able to offer some really awesome learning opportunities for littles birth to 5 who weren't old enough to go into kindergarten. So Heather and I have collaborated quite extensively on that. I know there was an offering Dr. Miller was going to lease a building for her, and it was like, oh no, we want it in Meadowlark. That's where they need to be. So I'll let her continue on, but it's been a really awesome journey getting it going. And then Miss Mills has been visiting with me for at least 5 years about stepping into a full science/STEM position. Ms. Sweckert was, as you know, moved to the high school in the spring for full technology instruction there, which left us without a tech teacher. And so Lauren and I reopened that discussion. Our ADM numbers allowed for her to step into that role. I can't say enough about the work that she has put into this in a super short time period, professional development and just personal dedication. And it's what she's doing is amazing, what they're both doing. So I'd really open the door, even after this evening, if you want to wander through and check these programs out. They're truly amazing, and the kids are excited on both ends of the spectrum to be coming and participating. So my sincere thanks to both of them, and I hope they become a legacy. So I'm going to have Miss Olson go for obvious reasons first. So she's brought some wonderful people. I will gather and you can start.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yes. Hello all. So it's nice to see you all again. Thank you again for having me. So I really quickly just wanted to recap the last time that I was here. I think it was in March. I brought a couple of my literacy totes that I had made, and I wanted to update you really quickly on the program. So far, if we can go to the next slide. So far, it was called the Tiny Tote Program, and I've moved now from an every 2-week checkout now to a monthly checkout. It's kind of made things a little bit easier on my end. I am actually checking out between 80 and 100 totes a month. So October was my highest tote bag checkout time. Something else that I've done recently is I've partnered with our librarian, and she's ordered me a scanner, and we've gotten labels now printed. So all of those tote bags I just have to scan now, as opposed to the old hand paper and pencil sign-in sheet. So that's the update on on that program. So the next really exciting thing that we have started over at Meadowlark is I have a play group now, and we meet twice a week. So we meet usually Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 to 11. But what we've done is we have an entire classroom now that's set up from birth through 5. So we have a play kitchen, a huge building center, we've got a book corner, and there's always like an arts and crafts station and dress up area. And so some of the mothers that come to our play group are here today to visit with you a little bit about why they enjoy it. But if there's any of you that want to volunteer to speak, that would be great. If not, well, anyway, so here they are. So yes, we've got Mara.
Yeah.
And then we've got,
I'm Riley.
Yep.
This is Mara. And she can't tell you how much she enjoys getting to go to playgroup. Although maybe she can, but it's just in her own words. We really love getting to go in. It gives her a chance to kind of interact with other babies and kids, and it gives us a chance to talk with other parents and kind of build that community. I think it's a great way to like get into the schools and for the kids to see that this isn't a scary place. And I learned so many things, like, we've learned about wash diapering and like potty training and some of the next steps going forward. So just what to look for coming up, and gives them a great place to play for a while.
Yeah. I think as a stay-at-home mom, it's nice to have that outlet for social interaction and early literacy, and actually a lot of us are former teachers also. We're taking a little break to raise our little ones, so yeah, we enjoy getting back in the school too.
I have a 1.5-year-old son, and we enjoy going. We don't have any family around here, and so he does not get to interact with any of his younger cousins, but my husband and I chose to stay here because we don't want to be in a different school system back at home, and that's the reason why we want to stay here, is because we like the school system here. And I've seen so much change with him. He's more social. Unfortunately, he's my only living child right now. And so he gets to interact with other kids his age and then other adults that he doesn't get to see, just my husband and our faces all the time. So it's nice for him to be able to get out.
And that's our son Hubert.
Yes.
My family just moved here 2 months ago, so we're from Rapid City, South Dakota. There's not a program like that there, and this town is significantly smaller. So I just think what you're doing is incredible. And it's also just helped, stay-at-home mom too. I don't know when else to get out of the house. Like, we have tried the library's reading program, and it just was not age appropriate. And my daughter's 2, and she's a screamer. So I was like, oh, this is not good for us, and we walked out. But this feels so much more comfortable because she can be a 2-year-old, and there's so many activities. And just watching the kids interact too, like they have so much fun. And it's been so helpful to meet other moms, and like I said, we just moved and I already have friends and she has friends, and that's been incredible. So I think what you guys are doing it's very important. So please continue. Please.
And Miss Heather is amazing.
Yeah,
we love her and the kids love her.
You guys can go now.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. I know it's bedtime, so.
I want to say thanks for coming.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it so
And
much.
if you ever have the opportunity just to walk in and just feel the energy,
Tomorrow.
Just don't
come tomorrow.
keep from being an adult playing with the sandboxes. It's a pretty cool atmosphere.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
I've been there.
See you guys. Thank you guys. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
See you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So when I first started the playgroup back in August, I had just one. And you know from the last presentation how I always think like it's gonna be really small and then it blows up. Well, last Thursday I had my biggest at 18 kids. Wow. So, and several of the parents who came brought like a grandparent with them. And so you can imagine a classroom fills up pretty quick when you've got lots of littles running around and adults. But one of my favorite parts about the program is not just the fact that they get to play, but we stop the last 15 minutes. I have a cleanup song, so everybody participates in cleaning up. And then I always read a book, and then we sing a couple songs. So that way I still am incorporating that literacy and learning piece into it. So here's just a couple pictures. The last couple slides are just some things. We've got some cool ice boxes. These were some of the crafts that we do at our craft table. So little hands and feet prints. And then the sensory table is probably the highlight. Every month, my table changes. And it's got, as you can see, like scoops and pom-poms and things. And the kids get to free play and dig. And it's really good for them to learn control and their fine motor skills. I have not had anybody dump massive amounts or anything like that yet, but I knocked just in case. But then here's a couple other just examples of some of the things we do. Last month was a farm and autumn themed one. So you can see a few pieces of corn, but I mean nothing out of control, right? Like what it could be. But you can kind of get an idea of all the kids playing. And then we've got, here's a couple more. So here's the one that's in there right now. This is our Christmas sensory bin. And then just some other, cute little kiddos that come to play. Yes. And so right now we're actually working on names and letters and names. And obviously, some of the kids are too little yet to do that, but some of them now are starting to practice and trace and, there we go. And then this was the first sensory bin. It was an ice cream themed one back in August. So, and then there's always like a Play-Doh activity with something with letters or numbers also for them. So, and then at the top we've got 2 girls. I have a dress up like imagination area. And so this one was they got to nail salon. So finger painting. So, but anyway, so that's some of the exciting stuff that I'm doing. So any questions?
How are you advertising for this? I didn't even know.
You did not? Okay. No. Well, so I have flyers like all over town. Well, maybe they're not
so
there.
I have to stop and read.
Yeah, so you have to look a little bit. But also, I would say too, we put it on the Meadowlark Facebook page. And then basically it's been word of mouth. Yeah. A lot of the other moms have just reached out to other parents in the community. And actually Hubert's dad brings him like every other week. And it's really cool to see a dad bringing his kid. I think that's really fun.
And the fun part is that the parents will bring them into the office and they're kind of waiting to gather with Miss Heather The next thing you know, parents are waiting in the office, and the little friends, if they're walking, they're gone.
Yeah.
They're down the hall and around
Yeah.
the corner, they know exactly where they're
Yep.
going. It's
They
really
lead their
amazing.
parents down the hallway, so, yeah. But anyway, so I would invite you to please come and check it out. Or if you know of anyone that's looking for a really nice laid-back play group, you know, with some literacy and learning stuff tied in. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, it's 10 to 11 at Meadowlark, so, yeah, thank you.
Heather, thank you. Miss Middle Girl? Because she's brought some help with her, she can see who's gonna help and who's.
They can show off their robotic skills at the end here. But my name is Lauren. Like Lori said, I approached her about 5 years ago wanting to pursue teaching science at Meadowlark. And at the time, we just didn't have the place for me to do that. And this last year, it just worked out with Krista Sweckard moving to the high school full-time. So I kind of inherited her position. So I'm teaching both science and technology to all junior K through second graders at Meadowlark. I cannot tell you how exciting this year has been. It's just, I look forward going to work every single day, and the kids are so excited to be in my room. I have a group of kids that comes into my classroom every day just to say hi at the end of the day, to see what we're doing the next day, and they're just so thrilled to be there and to have a space just for science and technology. Being an early elementary school, the focus oftentimes is on reading and writing and math because those are vital foundational skills. And sometimes science gets pushed to the side because we simply don't have the time to dedicate to it like we should. So it was very exciting for me to step into this position. This year has been a very collaborative year for me. I do not hesitate to call Krista Sweckard or Julie Snyder at the high school in Cloud Peak when I have technology questions. Johnson County is extremely blessed with amazing educators who are passionate about what they teach, and they're innovative and they're up for new challenges. So I call Krista and I'm like, I have an emergency on the iPad right now. Can you please help me out? And she helps me through any of that. Becky Kwam at Cloud Peak, she and I collaborate monthly and we have vertical meetings and we talk about what each of us is doing. She's helped me look closely at all of our priority standards to make sure that my lessons are centered around those things. She's helping me create a report card because I don't have one yet, and that's a work in progress. So that is my goal, to have that in place so that I can accurately grade and assess these kids on what they know. Because by the time they get to 4th grade, they're going to be taking a test. And Becky has had that responsibility to teach those kids in 3rd grade and to have them assessed in 4th when they haven't had a strong foundation K2. So I'm really excited to see the carryover there. In Laramie this summer, I went to a professional development, and it was a computer science teaching association conference. And I got a chance to meet a lady named Christy Palmer, and she works at UW, and she also works for a company called The World in Motion. And this company creates STEM kits for education. And I don't know how I fell into this opportunity, but she provided these amazing STEM kits to me and all of the students this year for kindergarten, 1st grade, and 2nd grade. So kindergarten, we did this amazing force and motion kit where we built ramps and we learned about mass and velocity and gravity and forces. 1st graders will get to create musical instruments when we go back after Christmas break because we're starting a sound unit, and we'll be able to see how sound and vibrations are related. And I will co-teach that unit with our music teacher. So they'll make the instruments with me. They'll study them in the music room, and it's gonna be really loud. And then in 2nd grade, toward the spring, they will be doing a kit called Design by Nature. So they will create seeds and see how they are dispersed naturally and decide if their design was a good design or not. Some really fun things are happening in my room, and it's just been a blast. We adopted a curriculum for science a couple of years ago, Savas.
Yep.
And I think that was kind of daunting for teachers to think about taking on. There's some really good stuff there. So I kind of mixed that curriculum with the robotics that we're doing for tech, and then the engineering piece of STEM. That has been a big eye opener because I'll present, an engineering challenge to the kids, and they have to work through the engineering design process where I ask them a question and they have a problem to solve, and then they have to plan something out with a group, and they have to create it and test it out and decide if it actually works and then how to improve it. So a lot of those lessons, we get a lot of tears because working with a team is hard, and those are vital skills that you have to use no matter how old you are. So a lot of failure, but it's a good thing because that's how you learn. And then math, the M of STEM is just mixed in with a lot of that. A lot of it is in robotics. But over here on this table, I have some work samples. Second graders are currently in a unit about landforms and bodies of water. So my room is exploding with cardboard and paint and all sorts of fun stuff, but they've created dioramas. And if you have a chance to stop by and peek at them, there's mountains and actually Briar's creation of the plateaus over there. So they built all of those I didn't help them at all. They built them all out of cardboard, and their assignment was to build a landform and a body of water and to be able to present about it. So that's the next step. All of the books that you see, this is probably my favorite part about my program, because this is how I get classroom teachers involved. I believe that science is a great subject to intertwine literacy skills. So I have these high quality read alouds that I don't always have time to read them in my class, so I record myself reading it. I send it to the classroom teachers. They show it in their own classes, so one, they know what we're talking about in science, and then they can later write about it if they want to turn that into a writing example. So they show that in their classroom, then they come to me and we do the lab together. So the water dance book was the inspiration for all of the landforms. First graders are learning a lot about light right now. So last week we made mazes using materials in the classroom, and we put a little toy at the end of the maze, and we learned how to use mirrors and reflect light so that they could see the object from the beginning of the maze at the end. So after they built this and they thought that was so cool, I actually had Kim Harvey as a guest teacher just helping me out in the classroom, and she's like, Lauren, they just made a periscope. And I was like, yes, they did. So we looked up a submarine, we found a video on a periscope, and it showed this man who had built one that went over a wall, and he was crouched down, peering over the wall with the periscope, and their minds were like, whoa! They just thought it was the coolest thing. So being able to connect to real world experiences has been really fun. And kindergartners, this week actually is Computer Science Education Week. I don't know if you guys knew that, but we're learning a lot about digital citizenship and digital etiquette. So how to behave when you're online, what is safe, what is unsafe, how you should still be kind when you're interacting with people on the internet. That book, Chicken Clicking, is, Lori and I had to talk about that one because it has kind of a dark turn at the end of the book, but it's about a little chicken who goes to the farmer's house and he starts buying all of this stuff on the internet. And the farmer doesn't know where it's coming from, so naturally he blames his wife on buying all of this stuff. And at the end, he sends his chicken friends on a cruise, and because he's bought all of these things, and then he's very lonely. So he decides he's going to meet another chicken friend online. So he takes a picture of himself, plans a meetup, goes to the woods, and it's the big bad wolf. And that's where the story ends, and you can kind of connect the dots there. But it's a very powerful book about, you know, what can happen on the internet. So this week is all about digital safety, because computer science safety standards are part of what I need to teach the kids. Speaking of computer science, so I have Dax here. He is my son, and he is in kindergarten. And at Meadowlark, we start robotics with the B-bots. So the B-bots are those little robots that are on the ground there. And one of the computer science standards is to be able to write a set of step-by-step instructions and then to design a program to accomplish a task. So Dax is going to, if you feel up to it, are you ready? He's going to spell a word for us on the B-bot mat because it's the alphabet. One of the kindergarten standards in literacy is to know all 26 letters and sounds and to be able to read and write consonant, vowel, consonant words. So he's going to spell us a word.
You may want to stand.
Yeah, you might want to stand there and take a peek.
Can you bring the mat to the middle?
Yeah, where would you like it?
So let's just put it in the middle here.
Oh, right there in the middle there.
You guys in the back, move up, it's all right. Come
Alright, buddy. So these mats are obviously in a grid, and each square is a 15 by 15 centimeter square. So as robotics progresses, it involves a lot of math. So right now, Dax is going to spell, can you code your B-bot to spell the word run? What's your word?
Run.
Can you say the sounds for me? What 3 letters is that?
O. U.
Very good. Do you want to do it letter by letter? Would that be easier? Okay, so clear it out and get it to the R first. Good job. What's the next letter? Still learning rights and lefts.
So wait, it's good.
There. How can you get it to the U? Make sure you clear it out though, or you'll remember all the steps you just told it. Good job. Now, how are you going to get it over here to the N? Go with what you think. Go with what you think. No, you got it right.
It's okay if you mess up.
Yeah.
Good. Great job.
Yeah.
So that is where it kind of starts. And I have sent a video to Heidi on where it will then take second graders to. And Rhett, my other son, is in second grade. They love being my guinea pigs for all of
Yeah.
this. And so he has we made a lesson, since second graders are learning about landforms. The dash robots, which you will see, are really cool. You can use the iPad to use an app called Blockly, and they create their code and their program within the app, which then communicates it to the robot. So what they're doing here, they're doing there, just on a larger scale. And it can record your voice. So he has a very large map set up in this video, and I put some different landforms around, and he pre-recorded the definition of each of those landforms. So when it visits the next landform, it'll tell you what it is.
Cool.
And he did a really good job. So whenever you're ready.
Hi, my name is Ray. What did you make for us today, Rhett? I made a robot code that shows the definitions of water, bodies of water, and land.
Awesome. So your robot's going to teach us some things?
Yeah.
Perfect. Let's see what it does.
Lake is a large body of water surrounded by land. An ocean is a very large area of sea. It is a very piece of land with sea on each side that connects to two artificial lakes. An island is a portion of land surrounded by water.
So he had to do all the math for figuring out how long the measurement is between each landform, the number of degrees that it had to turn, and he had to record all the definitions of the landform. So if I were to do this lesson in class and grade them on the standards, 1, for science, he understood the basic concept of landforms and bodies of water. 2, he was able to create a step-by-step list of instructions. 3, he was able to make a program to accomplish a task. And then there's even a math standard in there for measurement. So that kind of lesson would be really easy to grade a student on lots of standards. So thank you, boys, for your help.
Well done, guys.
That's all I have for you guys.
That was awesome. Thank you. I just taught a first grader how to do my job. Program for machines.
Right? I was thinking about that for the robot that paints the lawn. Like, that's probably what it's doing, actually.
Thank you, Ms. Mills.
Yeah,
Good.
thank
Do you have any other questions on my board report in general?
I do. I read something in the employment that you're going to retire.
That was not part of my board report.
And we're not talking about it.
Is that,
No, we're
is
not.
that the case, Lori? When is that gonna happen?
Not till the end of my contract.
Not till when?
End of my contract till June. And you're not done with me for.
Good, I was hoping you'd still be here tomorrow.
Mr. Chairman,
Please.
Lori, I'd like to say thank you. It's been a pleasure working with you the last 4.5 years. I enjoy Metal Arts. I miss it greatly. I know your staff is really going to miss you, and I, as a board member, will too. So congratulations. Enjoy your life, whatever you decide to do, and come back and visit us sometimes.
Consulting.
Thank you.
Charles, please.
So
Thanks.
Travis, so Lori, on behalf of myself, it's been a privilege to get to know and work with you in this time here, but I also know that you've had a tremendous impact not only in Johnson County, but on education statewide. So this isn't just about here, it's about the kids and the people you've impacted over your careers. So that's a celebration. So with that, we don't ever want to admit how old we are or we're getting an opportunity to retire. But I think a lot of times we forget about the impacts that we've made on people, and you need to realize that you've made a tremendous impact on kids, people, and the state of Wyoming with some of the things that you've done. Your recognition. So I want to thank you for everything that you have done and will continue to do, even when I see you with your grandkids sitting on the curb, reading books during a cold parade. It's all good. So you've always been about kids, and I appreciate that about you. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Mrs. Claus.
Thank you, those are very humbling words, and I feel like everything you said is just a mirror. I have grown from everyone I've ever worked with, so. We're back to 1985 and Claremont, Wyoming.
You don't have to put a date on it.
It's pretty funny, the stories. But thank you. It's
Thanks
been a
for your
journey.
presentation.
All right, gang. Other questions for the principals, principal reports? Please.
I just wanted to pass on to you, to pass on to your staff members. I attended Charlotte's Web this weekend, and Caitlin and the kids executed a wonderful play. It was truly, truly wonderful. And just pass on kudos.
Thank you. Anything else for the principal, gang? Okay, next up.
Red Kettle takes place when?
Oh, Wednesday.
The Bucket Challenge.
You can just come to Metal Art, it's fine.
Everybody just meet at Metal Art first?
Yeah, all good.
Tuesday the 18th. Thursday.
Are you? Right, so Travis, since you have something else for principals, we're on to the ops.
Up to ops. All right, gang, ops. Sounds like facilities had an interesting month.
Never a dull one.
Anybody got questions?
John, when they replace the valves at KC, that's a one-day project, I suspect.
Yes. Day and a half, depending if they run into any issues. Day and a half, depending if they run into any issues.
I just wanted to make sure the school, it wasn't a multi-day process and the school, was gonna get cold if it does happen to get cold.
Yeah. Been blessed with this weather so far. I think looking at the long range, we're gonna be okay.
Other questions for op teams? Anybody? All right. Admin. Anybody got questions for any of the admin tonight? Super.
So I hope everybody had an opportunity to watch the video. I know there's several videos in this, but that science one, I have it kind of color-coded. It says I must watch video. Seeing beyond the illusions, we talk about knowledge, we talk about some different things. That was fabulous at the School Boards Association. So I finally found this video that actually showed him creating a water ball, and I still don't know how he did it. But it's more than science. It's more than magic. It's actually science. It's teaching kids to create outside the box and think about why. He had a very powerful statement. So I'm hoping that the other superintendents in the region that were excited about that time can look to bring him and his traveling show to this part of Wyoming next year sometime. But I really would like to, if you haven't watched it, I know there's a lot of things you have to watch, but that one truly fascinated and reopened the door of the excitement of education of why we ask what we do, and not just really just assuming that AI knows everything and that we become a world of not thinking outside the box. So he really brought a pretty powerful statement from my point of view. So pretty good with that. And then if you pass the brain sprint, I have a gift for you at the end. So there was a little into that, but I wanted to make sure you, that video I thought was really something to kind of start thinking outside the box and kind of where we're headed in Wyoming education. So pretty cool.
The live performance was awesome too. The ones of us that got to see him go, it was fun to see. Anything else? Okay, board level reports.
So, Mr. Chair,
please.
One of the things, if this could happen, I would really appreciate it. And give this might be directed towards you, but I would love to see you take some of the kids, or the middle school, Ron, take some of these kids to Upton to see this plant they're making, that they're mining the rare earth minerals on.
Yeah.
I think that would be so good. I think there's a lot of job opportunities in the future. And the same with a field trip down to Kimmerer to visit the nuclear plant they're building. I just think there's so much for these kids to learn from that, and I want to be a chaperone. Because I want to go too. So something, if you guys can fit that in your schedule, I'd love to see it happen, and if I can help you to get some contacts, I would.
Appreciate it. Yeah, there are some awesome opportunities coming. That rare earth one is exciting.
Just how they discovered them and the process they use, and it's amazing.
Yeah,
it's amazing. And the dollar amount that's come out of the Black Hills from the Bear Creek, $140 billion
deposits.
Worth of, deposits, and
it's a world changer. Anything else?
And why we need that stuff. You know, I think it's interesting to these kids. We as adults, why do we need it?
Sure.
Because we shut the border down with China, and we're not going to get these minerals that they're mining. So I think Wyoming is on the front page, and we know it's on the front page of discovering this stuff. So anyhow, enough said.
Rec board, you've got it printed out, thorough and detailed as ever. Anybody got questions or additional things you need to tell? Rec board. BOCES. We had the regular meeting. The quest for a new director is ongoing. They load their people down about like we do. The poor second in command was stuck with a lot of duties. But they're working through. BOCES. Anything happening there this month? I have them backwards, Charles.
Next one is here.
Oh, okay.
If I remember right, it's coming up first part of the year. So.
Right on. All right, from the board, WSBA conference.
What'd you guys learn?
Man, the keynote speakers were inspiring. One guy we talked about, and there's that video. The other one was a master educator with so many years of experience that he had a lot of good ideas. Several of them we've got implemented already. We were ahead of the curve on many of them. But that was good fun. The WDE is looking at evaluation standards and how often we have to run the tests through. And they're seeking to reduce that significantly and emphasize what students are capable of, which was very exciting. It seemed to be a good dovetail for some of the career placement stuff we've been working on. So that was fun. What about the rest of you? Highlights, things you liked?
Mr. Chair, so I will report on the delegate assembly. Casey and Travis sat in with me. And there was lots of really great discussion when it came to the conceal, carry, resolutions. They had representatives from every district. Lots of questions were asked. One of the questions or one of the conversations were when a member of the public has a concealed carry permit. The concern or the questions were not all school districts in the state of Wyoming have an SRO in their schools, and actually probably the majority of them don't have SROs. We can't afford them. So the question was, or the concern was, when you have a concealed carry permit, the only person that you have to tell that you have a concealed carry permit is a law enforcement. So one of the concerns was within it was the 26.3. That was a huge concern. There wasn't much resolve as far as that went. People just voiced their opinions. Everything as far as those, the 26.1, 26.2, and 26.3 that we supported all went through. They actually dropped the 26.25, which was the curriculum transparency. They took that off the board. And then the 26.6, which was the notification dates for boards of trustees and certified staff, it was denied. And unfortunately, I'm struggling remembering what the denial process was. The conversation there, I think that they looked at was keeping local, letting you do with what your school board and what your staff, keeping it at your district. And so that one was actually denied. Otherwise, everything that we were in support of other than the 26.6 went with how we decided. It was a good assembly. They nominated new board members. What else? Yeah, I think that was about it.
I had never been, but I thought it was really great to be in a room with all representatives from each district, knowing that we all really still have the same concerns and just we're all questioning, concerned, and struggling with the same things, and some of us are prevailing in the same places, which I think is good for growth as far as our kids and doing what's best for the kids across the board, like in every district. So I was excited to be there to hear that. Sometimes I feel like we're the only ones in our places of being distraught, but we're not, so it helps us come together, so. It was good discussions, I thought, on some really hard things, so.
Charles and Marilyn, there's a bill in front of the legislature for the ECA. Where do you guys see that going?
Well, it's on the internet. Again, it's a projection. I don't think we're going to get the 8%. It's
8.5, wasn't it?
Yeah, 8.5, but again, they always start high, they end low, in what that looks like. And you have to remember the ECA is based on the base model of the state, so it's not based on, that 8% is not based on our salary basis. So there's a lot of significant things that can happen. With the current lawsuit, I expect some type of ECA to probably be pushed through, but to be pushed through at 8.5% will be interesting, or 8%, whatever it is, but usually they start high and end low. Reality is there's a lot of feelings out there that this legislation is not as educationally friendly as it has been in the past, so those are all factors that will be taken into consideration. There is also a reduction in basically utilities, so it's going to balance out with some of that. My biggest thing is interesting is they're going to do a desk audit for recalibration instead of doing the traditional come together, have meetings, and talk about what that recalibration of the funding model looks like. So for them to do a desk audit is something brand new. That's never been done, at least since I've been as superintendent since 2013. So it'll be interesting to see where that lands. But I'll be as transparent as I can. Whether it's 8.5%, 8%, or 7%, you can't tie it to what we as districts look at. And probably as a board, we'll resend that business manager presentation, that PowerPoint that explained it very well what that actually does mean to districts and to staff members, so they're aware. Because I think a lot of hopes get put into place that we're going to give you an 8% increase, and it really doesn't balance out to that. So that would be something that we could present to you as a board and push out through administrators.
It's in your board, it's in my board report.
There we go. So, Travis, I thought it was a great conference. I mean, that celebration across the board is united. You had a lot of compliments as a board of trustees, the numbers that were there and the active role that we played. I agree that the training you and I went to about, how to basically defuse or what we're doing with hard conversations to where new board member training. You guys went to an all-day training, correct? And I thought you came back with a lot of information through that. But there were some real highlights. I mean, we went to the State Board of Education, and you are correct. You connected the dots by understanding what we're doing and how standards and what we're doing with promise standards and how they're truly clearly identifying what's an elective and what's a required, and that you're required to teach to the standards and assess the standards. So there was a lot of tie to that. And then I think the business manager presentation was super awesome. And then you had the legal updates that next day. But I got to tell you, the biggest highlight was what we seen at dinner when we had all the boards together and we sat and there was conversations. We sat at a table. There was pretty intense conversations. I think we were exhausted at the end of that. But to know where we started with collaboration with those other school districts and to land where we were and see what that collaborative piece that came across the table that night, when the Campbell County Board Chair and Superintendent who came to that, and a couple other district superintendents said, wow, you got something going on there, all right? They want to now be a part of our little collaborative piece. And to just hear the celebrations about the collaboration, the professional development you're doing together as boards, that is huge. It might seem like every district in the state does that. Not every district in the state does that. What you experienced that night was something that's unique, and I think it's going to drive Sheridan and Johnson County to do some pretty good things, great things, especially when we're talking about true revs and the things we're already doing with Sheridan College. So you got to walk away. I walked away as a superintendent very proud of this board of trustees and how you represented this region and the state of Wyoming. So pretty cool stuff.
Mr. Chair.
Please.
I also wanted to highlight, I sat in on Dr. Miller's presentation,
yes,
and we are leading the way. That is really exciting.
Did you notice how you can jump off stage?
Yeah.
No stage diving in
For
future.
as much as data just boggles me, it is interesting because Dr. Miller brings it down to our level. We're not educators here, and so it's sometimes hard to understand exactly why, how to look at our data. Does that make sense? And he really, it was a great presentation, and he brought it down to where we could understand it, and it kind of helped me connect the dots when I went to the
Department of Education.
The State Board of Education. When we just had a tough go on the deciding to go from the 28 credits down to the 24 credits, and I mean each team member brought just a gamut of stuff for us to look at and to try to understand and decipher through, and listening to those the standards that they're actually looking at, and that we are like following right in that path, and we have an expert among us. And to me, that's really, really exciting. Like, we can officially put, quote, the JCSD one, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It was really great.
Yeah, it was neat leading the way that way. Thank you, Dr. Miller. It was a good job.
Excellent.
Anybody else from the WSBA conference? All right, next up, January special session, Wednesday, January 8th, here at 5:15. We will put together some topics.
So while we're talking about this is a great opportunity for me to interject with state leadership and Senator Crago. It's that time of year, and I think that would be good for us to try to schedule them to be at the work session, maybe in January, to talk about some of the bills that actually are going to make and not make, and have some of that conversation. So, okay.
Good. All right, and the January board meeting. Same day, same place, January 13th, here at 6 p.m. We will grow from the work session and put together additional information from there. Finally, public comment. We got any public comment tonight? None. All right, gang, we're gonna finish with an executive session, but that wraps up everything else for tonight's meeting. Thank you, everyone.
I make a motion to go into executive session for statute 1-16, 16-4-45.
A2 and A3.